I can see a lot of people are joining us now. Just give it a second as everybody comes into the webinar. Okay, let's get started. So, welcome everyone. We're very happy to have you here for our webinar, Globalstar Optimizes Profit Margins While Gaining Insights with NetSuite ERP. So I'm very, very excited to have with us today Rebecca Clary, the VP and CFO of Globalstar, Tim Calamari, the VP of Network IT and Applications, and Michael Ash, one of our project managers here at Myers-Holum. So without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to you, Rebecca, to give us a little more fuller bio on each of us.
Well, Rebecca, thank you. It's great to be here today. My name is Rebecca Clary. I am the VP and CFO at Globalstar. I've been with Globalstar since 2010, been CFO since 2014. And now prior to joining Globalstar, I worked with PricewaterhouseCoopers in their audit practice. And so I am a CPA by trade. This topic that we're talking about today is near and dear to my heart, both because I experienced Globalstar before and after the integration. So I understand the fundamental challenges and successes that come along with the project.
Much like Rebecca, I've been here a while, almost 13 years now. Just grew up in technology with oil and gas, and then satellite just, seemed way cool over here in Covington, so yeah, just worked my way through here. I am the VP of basically all things technology. I'm also the DPO, Data Protection Officer. And a few years ago, we had the year of accounting, 2016. We're going to swap out our billing system and that, and it just didn't happen. It took way longer, but we did our billing system first, and then we decided to follow that up because we were bored with swapping out our ERP. We were on Oracle Financials, and just wanted to get off prem and just have some folks that, did this stuff for a living, help us roll this out. We looked at a few. We looked at SAP, Workday, Microsoft Dynamics, but we have a lot, we use the One World package. So we kind of go out, we're a global company. So we have entities all over the planet. So that's kind of how we ended up here.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. And what about you, Michael?
Thank you, Rebecca. My name is Michael Ash. I'm a project manager here at Myers-Holum. I've been managing NetSuite specific deliveries for a couple of years now. Prior to that, I have been involved in the technology sector, primarily in the Defense Department, as a contractor, and before then, U.S. military veteran. My interaction with Globalstar came after their delivery. I've been managing their managed services support as a PM level, and then I predominantly work on delivery projects for the most part, though, for MHI. So I'll go ahead and run through the agenda real quick. Obviously, we kind of took care of introductions already. We're going to then turn it over to Rebecca to talk about Globalstar a little bit. We're going to dive in to see how Globalstar uses NetSuite. I'm going to quickly touch upon Myers-Holum and how we kind of use our managed services section, and then follow it up with our question and answer. So.
Okay, so as Tim mentioned, we are headquartered in Covington, Louisiana, which is about 45 miles north of New Orleans. We moved our headquarters from California in the Bay Area in 2010, which is when I joined Globalstar and went into Globalstar. So Globalstar operates in the satellite telecommunications industry. So that means that we have a network of owned satellites and ground stations, which we refer to as gateways, that operate over our licensed MSS spectrum to provide services to our customers. So we have a variety of revenue streams and types of customers. So including product sales, which Globalstar designs and develops in-house, and then uses a third-party contract manufacturer to actually build and manufacture the products. And then we provide services to customers using those devices. So satellite phones, which is what we refer to as full duplex, so two-way open channel communications. And then we have consumer messaging devices, which is sold through our company referred to as Spot Communications. And then we have a line of devices that are that operate over commercial IoT or Internet of Things use cases. So those are asset tracking devices, essentially. And then most recently, we announced that we are the provider of satellite services to Apple's iPhone 14. So that kind of rounds out the various revenue streams that we deliver to our customers.
Excellent. So thank you so much for that overview, Rebecca. I think with what Tim mentioned in terms of your legacy system and so forth, what were some of the key business drivers for this evaluation that you did prior to actually selecting NetSuite?
Right, and it's a great question and so fundamental to a project of this scale. So when we first decided to launch the initiative of migrating to a new worldwide ERP, we first held a series of meetings with all the stakeholders internal to the company that were going to be impacted by this decision. And so that included everybody from sales and marketing, product engineering, supply chain, treasury, HR, customer care, accounting. I mean, everybody had a seat at the table. And we got their feedback and determined what our business needs were, and therefore kind of what the functional requirements were of a system. And then for there, launched the process that Tim talked about in terms of kind of vetting all of the options. We engaged a third-party advisor who understood our system requirements, and they ran an extensive diligence process and you know, covered the various options that Tim referred to. And I think at the end of the day, within probably 3 to 6 months, we narrowed it down to NetSuite and SAP. Those were kind of the systems that could support the complex environment that we have and required. They provided the scale and the customization that we needed. And so with those two options, it kind of came down to the CEO basically saying, I had a terrible experience with SAP, so we're not going there. So that was our ability to eliminate down from 2 to 1. So that's how we decided on NetSuite. And I can talk a little bit about those business needs or functional requirements, if that's helpful.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, what were you said scalability, ability to handle complexity. What were some of your other goals with for NetSuite, for selecting NetSuite and also Myers-Holum?
Yeah, I think after those series of meetings with the various stakeholders that I mentioned, there are fundamental needs kind of fit into 3 broad categories. One is probably the most common that you'll hear from users, but it's to increase automation and integration, system integration to gain efficiencies, right? And I'll comment on that in a second. I'll lay out the 3 and comment a little bit on each. The second was to integrate and consolidate our international subsidiaries into one environment. So Tim mentioned we have entities all over the globe, right? And so that has it's evolved into that, right? We've grown over a series of years, and so would you end up having this kind of a disparate system structure across the globe, which isn't very conducive to doing things in any kind of cohesive way. And the third is just to enhance reporting and visibility into all of our business processes. It's something we completely lacked with our legacy system. So I guess back to the first and probably the most fundamental in increasing automation and integration. We had numerous manual processes throughout our business, not just our close process. A lot of people just think that this is an accounting and finance decision, but it extends so much beyond that into operations. And that level of kind of fragmentation and manual intervention adds a lot of risk and uncertainty for financial reporting, and not just, I mean, Globalstar is a public company, right? So we have to think about our public company requirements to reporting to the SEC in a required deadline fashion. But it's not just that. It's whether you're reporting internally to the board or externally to lenders. Maybe it's not public, it's just to lenders. When you have processes that are manual and not reliable, you can't necessarily close in a timely way, or you might not be able to produce sound and accurate financial statements, which is obviously something that we wanted to get away from. And I'll just hit on these other ones real quickly, but I talked about integration and consolidation of our subs. We, again, the visibility comment, I've said that word probably 3 times already, but it's so important to have any kind of meaningful financial analysis or oversight into those subsidiaries' financial statements. And then enhanced reporting. So, when you have disparate systems kind of taking care of various parts of the process, you'll have, black holes in a sense, or gaps where you just don't have any visibility or reporting or data, to make business decisions on. So that part was super important for us to have access to data when we needed it.
So in terms of, also then in terms of Myers-Holum, was there any specific, okay.
Oh, sorry. No, yeah, I'm not leaving you guys out, which is pausing, but yeah. So I mean, for us, so we actually started with a different, a competitor of MHI at the onset, and we very quickly realized, I think it was weeks into the process, we knew it wasn't the right fit. It was kind of cost prohibitive for one. But it just wasn't the right fit. So we went back to NetSuite and we said, hey guys, we need a couple of other recommendations. And they heard our feedback, and they recommended MHI. And it was, I think I consider MHI more of a boutique firm. I think you guys have, obviously your core competencies, and they were very aligned with what we needed. And I think you appreciated the complex environment that we had and the ways that we had to navigate around that and the integrations that we required. And so I think we just kind of were fundamentally aligned from the beginning on that.
That's excellent to hear. Yeah. What in terms of now, since you had your evaluation, you went through the implementation process, what are some of the ways that Globalstar is now leveraging NetSuite? Has it had an impact on your business? Has it met your expectations? Those are the kinds of things we're wondering too.
Yeah, absolutely has. It has simplified our business. It has streamlined so many accounting and operational processes, as I kind of talked about before, in terms of this baseline requirements. If we're going to do this, this is what it needs this is what the system needs to address, and it has done that. I mean, I think we generally are more efficient today. We are closing, we probably shaved 2 days off of our close process, and we can do more, but I think it's steps to get there. You don't want to be too aggressive at the beginning and miss something. But so that's kind of an iterative process, and with fewer employees actually, because we have automated so many things that were previously 100% manual. And so you are able to do things with fewer resources. So that I think that, and then also just that visibility again that I was talking about in terms of, just kind of cradle to grave, product life cycle, right? From manufacturing the product to where it is in the warehouse to getting activated by the end customer and kind of everything in between. And that was a process that is very disjointed, and then the black holes I referred to before, that's where they existed a lot of times, and with that you get unhappy customers, or you have lost sales, right? And so from that perspective, our operational folks, our sales guys, and our product engineering team is super excited about those improvements.
That's excellent. Now, in terms of the technical part of that, do you, Tim, have anything to add in terms of kind of dovetailing with what Rebecca has been giving us, the overview in terms of from a business perspective? What about leveraging NetSuite from an IT perspective? How's that impacted the IT department?
So I mean, good question. But I've kind of leveraged more on where Rebecca was headed, where before we had for inventory Great Plains and we had all these other systems globally, in South America, here and there. And now it allowed us to pull it all into one system, and it even allowed us to go into some form of AP automation. I mean, I also run our telecom department. We have circuits all over the world, spend a lot of money all over the world. I mean, I was stamping and signing invoices every month. Now it's, on this guy, right, through AP automation software that you guys helped us deploy those processes. My team actually, whether it's network database, I mean, we were the least part of this. We just facilitated and brought in the consultants, because this is a hosted platform, right? Where our old platform was Oracle Financials, which was on-prem, and you had to be scared to walk around this physical server because it was outdated and this stuff. So, I mean, just the reliability and, very robust. I mean, we integrated Del Boomi into a lot of these processes. The APIs were so clean that we could work with, especially with MHI. It was a beast, and we knew it would be, but MHI really helped us get there. One recommendation is I would always request Michael for any project.
That's excellent.
He clearly, we were going along pretty good, but man, when he stepped up, we just got shit done. So we're really, really good dude, and efficient. So
that's excellent. Well, thank you, Jim. And so, Rebecca, when you're thinking about some of the benefits that you discovered, were there any that you didn't actually initially kind of mark out that you wanted to see that you didn't anticipate that you actually have benefited from since going live?
Yeah, I think there's been various ones. I mean, I think a couple that come to mind, SOX compliance improvements, and that's, or Sarbanes-Oxley for, those who might not be a public company, but Tim just kind of touched on it, but we were able to shift a little bit of the burden of proof from the accounting and finance folks to the IT folks, because so many of our controls went from being manually performed to an application control or an IT dependent control, which makes them more reliable, lower risk, and the auditors have to, and management has to test fewer instances of them because they are automated in nature and not manual. So that has definitely been an improvement, which I knew that it was going to have an impact, but it was more fast than I had originally expected. Also, I guess with the reporting aspect of things, that has dovetailed very nicely into enhanced budgeting and planning. And we have a tool, PBCS, which I actually don't even know if that's a NetSuite tool or a third party that's integrated with NetSuite, but either way, it allows us, the data that we now have access to, it allows us to use that in such a fundamental way to running a business well, right? When you can use that data and then provide financial forecasts and modeling or budgeting from it. So that has been really great. And then I guess just one other thing while I'm kind of thinking about it, that it's items that are just kind of in the margin, but when we're talking with MHI developers, things, they pop up, right? Just like tips to working through something. And again, in the margin, because I can't even think of specific examples right now, and it's mostly more of Tim's team are having these conversations with the developers, but they'll just be like, well, have you thought about this? Or you could do this way or that way, or just, you know what I mean? So just kind of improvements along the way that we certainly wouldn't have anticipated through kind of the discovery conversations.
Well, thank you so much for answering all these questions, Rebecca and Tim. I wanted to give Michael a chance just to talk about a little bit what we're doing, now on a continuing basis, just to kind of introduce NetSuite Managed Services from the Myers-Holum perspective.
Sure. Thank you, Rebecca. First, Tim, thank you for the shout out. I appreciate it. It's definitely not all on me. You guys were great to work with, and I enjoyed it and still do enjoy it, right? But as far as NetSuite Managed Services, so MHI predominantly in the NetSuite world has two primary functions. One is delivery, two is managed services, right? So we did deliver the implementation with Globalstar. I was not the PM during that process, but I came on to take on the managed services role after we went live. Globalstar's specific requirements were pretty in-depth and pretty large, so definitely required more focus and more attention. Our managed services team, as you can see on the slide, has a lot to offer. First, I'll say dedicated managed team. So, when you go live with other ERP systems, you might be getting support through emails or a call, and you'll get someone who's maybe the first time looking at your system. With MHI Managed Services, we have a dedicated team that supports you at all times. You have the same consultant team, same project manager for the duration. So they come to have a really good, solid relationship, working relationship throughout the entire contract. And Rebecca kind of touched on this earlier about being able to provide tips and tricks for how to kind of optimize your NetSuite system. We do have a lot of experience with the consulting and the integration team here at MHI. It kind of varies from seeing how other companies operate and what's worked well with them to also just having a deep understanding of NetSuite proper to be able to offer other alternative solutions or potential more efficient options to kind of get the same needs. So the industry-specific expertise is huge. End-to-end NetSuite support is really nice because that really focuses on end-to-end, right? So if you have a question about a report, or you have a question about a safe search, or maybe you just want to create a custom form, pretty low-level basic NetSuite functionality that we can support with. And we can take that all the way up to advanced scripting and integration with third parties through APIs or WME, things like that. So we've got a lot of breadth of support to basically handle any need that is required. And really big aspect of that is the pay for what you use, right? It's a time and materials statement of work. So there's an agreed upon time frame and budget, but whatever you don't use, you don't use. I know some other agencies operate more on a minimum per month hours or maximum per month hours, and then kind of use or lose. But in our aspect with MHI is you pay for what you use, and that's it. There's no minimum requirement. So a lot of clients that we've worked with really appreciate the flexibility to be able to surge and kind of slow down as needed based off of their particular requirements. So yeah, that's kind of NetSuite Managed Services as a whole from the MHI perspective. Yeah.
So let's go to, thank you so much, Michael. So let's go to some of the questions that have come in. We've got one that I think, let's have you answer this, Michael. What are the best ways to mitigate the challenges your customers face moving to a new ERP system?
So moving to a new ERP system is a pretty daunting task, especially for the larger of a company you are and the more complex your system is. A lot of moving pieces, a lot going on. I would say there's 2 or 3 things kind of critical to stand out for me and more of a project management perspective, like overall impactful. Number 1 is client engagement. The more the client is involved early and often, it's going to be a successful implementation through discovery, through the walkthroughs, testing, all the way up into actually going live with the system. We really need that feedback, that positive feedback loop, right? Where we're able to make adjustments, conduct the work, and then validate and verify that everything is working as expected. And kind of holding hands with the client engagement is user adoption. User adoption is essentially the group outside the core team working on the system and how they feel about NetSuite. I mean, let's be honest, people in general are very hesitant to change, and especially if they've been using the same system for any length of time. There's a reluctance to adopt a new way of operating, especially when it doesn't make sense initially, right? So bringing the team on, and especially those that could potentially be involved with the project and making decisions, need to be on board. They need to understand the purpose of the ERP upgrade, the direction, the timing, and just why everything's happening to allow it to make sense so they can get on board with the rest of the train. And a big one from the MHI side is honestly expectation management. at the very beginning of the project, we need to ensure that we're setting the correct expectations for the client, for delivery, for everything from our methodology. We have a very specific methodology we use, which is proven successful. It works with a lot of different clients. It's just a matter of fine tuning a couple of different aspects of it, understanding how we're going to get to where we're going to get at the end of the project through discovery sessions, walkthrough sessions, testing sessions, data migration, and just kind of laying that groundwork so everyone understands kind of where they need to be when, and they're able to forecast their availability, kind of tying back into client engagement, right? We're able to forecast when additional support or a surge in support will be required. So yeah, I think those three things really set a solid foundation for everything else to fall into place and be successful.
Okay, thank you, Tim. I mean, Michael.
No problem.
So this one is this is why I said that, for Tim and Rebecca. Do you have any recommendations for a company adopting a modern ERP based on your experience?
You want to go first, Tim?
Yeah, I'll go. Recommendations? Yeah, do a lot of research. I mean, we had a third party that had institutional knowledge come in, and they kind of go across the board, whether it's security or auditing or whatever, and they knew what we were looking for, and then they went a few months, interviewed our folks and some other firms. A lot of work up front. Allow enough time, and however long you think it's going to take, add another 6 months, 3 months. It's a lot. I mean, we're very complex, like Rebecca said. I mean, we're basically a phone company where cell phones don't go. Well, now where they do go. So yep, that's what I would say. It's in clear requirements. It'll help MHI a ton.
Yeah, and I was just going to say what Tim just left off on, and just in terms of being super detailed in the discovery sessions, things that you might not think are super applicable today, or maybe they're applicable, but they're not meaningful, just cover them all, because there's no harm in doing that. And as Michael said earlier, including everyone who's impacted, because they're going to be most knowledgeable about their functions, and they're going to take ownership, and as opposed to having something shoved down somebody's throat as far as change is concerned. If they have a seat at the table, it's going to be much more impactful.
Yeah, we started with like 100 and something licenses, and we had to add 60 by the end, just because everybody found a need to have the control and use it, and which was good. That's what we wanted, So
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, I think we have a 1 more minute for you, Michael, to answer a question. What factors are important in determining how long an ERP implementation will take?
That's actually a very good question, because it's a huge gap, right? There are so many different factors, and very large implications to a proper schedule. Obviously, the largest impact, I would say, is the size and complexity of the project. If you're a small company doing a financials first, basically just getting your accounting practices onto NetSuite, you can expect a lot lower of an impact timeline wise. If we go to a huge multi-subsidiary global company with lots of third-party interactions and integrations, that of course will lengthen the time. And those relationships with those third parties are often a big consideration. So 1 or 2 third parties versus 10, being able to maintain their schedules with everyone else's, that kind of complexity, as Tim had pointed out earlier, can significantly impact the project schedule. The discovery sessions, I would say, the kind of first part of the project, are critical. It kind of ties into, we talked about it, touched on it here and there, the subject matter expert involvement early. If you get halfway through a project and then you finally bring on the subject matter expert and they tell you we're not doing it the right way, we got to make changes, that of course will impact your project. So getting the right people at the right time early and often is critical. So I would say those are probably the biggest impactors, will be the complexity of the project, and then of course the engagement.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much for answering that, Michael. And Rebecca and Tim, for your time today. It's been really incredible. And I feel like there's so much more to explore. So maybe we can get you to do a webinar again one of these days. At any rate, thank you, all of you. And we'll get a recording out next week to anybody who couldn't actually attend, and to those of you who did and want to share it. Have a great day.